All right, greetings everyone. This is Eric, founder and CEO of Cubicle Investing. Definitely check out the website at cubicleinvesting.com. And if you're looking to learn how to trade options, I do have a mentorship program called Flip That Option, where we meet once a week. And you will also have access to training videos and all the information that you need to trade options effectively. So with that being said, today is it's Monday, Memorial Day, May the 26th, approximately 9:39 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so one of the ideas that I presented to my FTO or Flip That Option members on our weekly Friday live training session was, particularly for those folks who have a large, not a large, but a small account, so something under $3,000. And they're looking to trade options. I actually suggested, hey, as opposed to, risking capital trading options, because you're going to have some losses, right? Why not just invest in but the best performing asset over the last decade, which is Bitcoin, but invested in Bitcoin indirectly. So using the regulated market, the stock market, to invest in Bitcoin by way of an ETF. So there's an ETF called BITO, B-I-T-O, that actually allows individuals who are looking to get exposure to Bitcoin to invest in Bitcoin without without knowing how to use a cryptocurrency exchange, or worrying about taking custody of the Bitcoin asset yourself. So you can actually go into the stock market and invest in a ETF, an exchange traded fund that tracks the performance of Bitcoin. So as we can see here, this here is a headline that I pulled from Yahoo Finance's website, where it talks about how Bitcoin ETFs have attracted close to over $500 million and weekly inflows as the bullish momentum of Bitcoin continues, right? So if you guys have been following the performance of Bitcoin, Bitcoin actually reached over $111,000 recently. And so the best performing asset over the last decade is on a tear right now, and the momentum is off the charts. And so there are folks who are in my mentorship program who have a really small account. And so I say, hey, just invest in a Bitcoin ETF, particularly BITO, and you can actually get a monthly dividend payout from BITO. So BITO is like one of the highest paying ETFs out there, and it pays a monthly dividend. So this BITO ETF was developed by a company called ProShares, and ProShares developed this BITO ETF back in 2001, right? So BITO is the world's largest and most actively traded cryptocurrency ETF with an expense ratio of 0.95%. The ETF has attracted substantial inflows, with 35.2 million in net inflows on just May 20th of 2025 alone. BITO's assets under management have reached over 128 billion, representing nearly 6% of Bitcoin's total supply. The ETF's performance has closely tracked Bitcoin's price movements, with the fund gaining 26% over the past month as Bitcoin surged to new all-time highs above $111,000. Now just think back, years ago when Bitcoin first came on the scene back in 2009, as a result or as a response of the financial crisis, it was selling for less than $1. It was trading for less than $1. And here we are today talking about Bitcoin, one Bitcoin being valued at over $111,000. Crazy. Institutional investors have been a key driver of BITO's growth, with major firms like Susquehanna adding $291 million to their BitO holdings in recent weeks, right? So the persistent inflows into BitO and other Bitcoin ETFs highlight the growing institutional comfort with accessing digital assets through regulated investment vehicles rather than direct custody. So that's what I mean. So as opposed to, worrying, although I recommend, and by the way, this is not financial investing advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not investment advice. Please do your own due diligence and do your own research. So with that being said, I would definitely recommend, you owning the asset Bitcoin directly. But there are some folks who don't feel comfortable with owning Bitcoin or going on a cryptocurrency exchange and actually purchasing Bitcoin or Ethereum. So this here is another option, right? That gives you, exposure to Bitcoin. And oh, by the way, you will get a monthly dividend. That's, that's one of the highest paying dividend ETFs in the market right now. So looking at the ex-dividend date and also the dividend payout date for BitO for the remainder of this year, 2025. Now, the ex-dividend date is the date in which you are ineligible to receive the dividend payout. In other words, you have to own. So, for example, if you wanted to receive the dividend payout for the month of June, which takes place on June the 6th, then you have to own shares of BitO, the ETF, prior to the ex-dividend date of June the 2nd. So you have to own the shares before June the 2nd in order to get the dividend payout on June the 6th. And again, BitO is one of the highest paying dividend ETFs out there right now. And so if we look at the BitO dividend historical information, we can see that BitO has a dividend yield of 55.42% and paid $12.68 per share in the past year. As I mentioned before, the dividend is paid every month, and you must own the shares prior to the ex-dividend date. So here's the historical record of the dividend payout for BitO. So this month, the month of May 2025, it paid a 54 cents dividend for each share. In April, 36 cents. In March, 72 cents. In February, 93 cents. And in December of last year, 2024, it paid $1.11 per share. So, owning BitO shares, is much better than having your money sitting even in a high yield savings account. Now, a high yield savings account may give you 4, sometimes close to 5% interest annually. But here you can get 4 and 5% dividend payout on your money every month. So not annually, but every month. And this is the power of BitO and the dividend that it pays for this particular exchange traded fund. Now, the way I would I actually own a bunch of shares of BitO, and the way I recommended my Flip That Option or FTO members to invest in BitO for those who have a small account, because I really don't want them to be trading, because, with trading options, you're going to have some losses, right? So when your account is really small, capital preservation is extremely important. And it's also good, for the psychology as well, to see your money constantly growing. It's very beneficial for the psychology. And so what I do is, because I'm an options trader, the way I invested in BitO is I actually sold put options on BitO, because I wanted to buy BitO shares at a discounted price. I didn't want the current price of BitO at the time that I was looking to invest in BitO. I wanted to get the shares for a cheaper price, and I also wanted to be paid. I wanted to be paid to invest in BitO for a discounted price. How about that? They don't teach this stuff in school, right? So, for example, I normally go out 30 days, right? So here's an option. This here is called the options chain, and the options chain consists of expiration dates for the option contracts, call options, and put options for the ETF BITO, right? And so I like to go out at least 30 days. So in this case, we don't have a 30-day expiration, but we do have a 32 expiration date, which is June the 27th, right? So I go there. I'm just going to delete that. And I say, okay, so the current price of BITO right now is $22.90. So if I wanted to buy one share of BITO, the ETF, I would have to pay $22.90, right? But if I wanted to buy 100 shares of BITO, I would have to pay $2,290, right? So now keep in mind that every option contract controls 100 shares of whatever you're looking at. So it can be BITO, it can be Apple, it can be Microsoft, whatever underlying that you're looking at, and we're looking at BITO underlying. If you sell one option contract, that is 100 shares. So what I'm saying is I want to buy BITO shares not at $22.90 per share, but at $20.50 per share. And oh, by the way, I want you to pay me $69 to agree to buy 100 shares of BITO at $20.50 per share. If, now this is important, if I'm only going to buy these 100 shares if the price of BITO shares drops below my strike price of $20.50 on a day of expiration, June 27th at 4:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if the value of one share of BITO is less than my strike price, right, I'm going to be put 100 shares of BITO at $20.50 per share, not the $22.90, but the $20.50. And oh, by the way, I also got paid for agreeing to buy 100 shares of BITO at that discounted price. That's the power of options, right? And so the other thing is, if the value of BITO shares is not below my strike price of $20.50 on a day of expiration, then guess what? My contract expires and I get to keep the $69. So I get to keep the $69 regardless of what happens. But you can see that, you know, knowing how to trade options allows you to actually invest, get paid to invest in a company that you're looking to invest in at a discounted price. So now once you own the 100 shares of BITO, then you're going to get that very healthy monthly dividend payout, and you can use that as passive income to pay bills, right? So it's a beautiful thing. So again, you know, I recommend that you actually own Bitcoin directly, right? In other words, you should learn how to own, you should learn how to invest and be the custodian of your Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the most valuable asset right now that one can own. And so you want to learn how to invest in Bitcoin directly. However, if you feel uncomfortable with investing directly into Bitcoin, BITO is a great option, pun intended, right? It's a great option to get exposure to the momentum right now of Bitcoin, and also get monthly income from the dividend that BITO will pay you. So with that being said, if you found any value in this video, please like the video. And also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. My goal is to reach 1,000 subs by the end of 2025.